Going to take a break from Europe today. There is an election tomorrow in Hungary. But there's, of course, the ongoing war in Ukraine. I will talk about those things on Sunday and Monday, respectively. But today, I want to bring the focus back to my own backyard, to Florida, where Governor DeSantis has made a monumental move in taking on the Walt Disney Corporation. I don't think that a lot of people realize how significant this is. It's not just, DeSantis is, big into the culture war stuff, so he's taking on a woke media corporation that owns, ABC News and is making, woke films and something like that. It's not just that. Disney is one of the top special interest groups in Florida. They're probably number one. And then closely after them, you've got the sugar lobby, tourism, real estate, of course. Those are the top corporate players in Florida politics, but none of them come close to Disney. When I said that Big Sugar was close, I meant that, they were close as in they might be second or third. I didn't mean close in absolute terms. The influence of the Walt Disney Corporation over Florida politics, is totally bipartisan, and it's been consistent, going back to the 1960s through to the present. And if you've ever been to Central Florida, you will understand that the impact of the Walt Disney Corporation on our state could not be more significant. Disney World completely changed the state, changed the face of that entire region. What was a very beautiful, picturesque area of citrus production with rolling hills and just largely unobstructed nature has been turned into a giant theme park. Because, of course, Disney World itself is not the extent of the influence. It has spread. You have all these other theme parks that have opened, and all these other tourism attractions and things. And then you also have the flood of people who have been shipped into Florida in order to staff all of these tourism attractions in Orange and North Osceola counties. These people largely live in Orange and Osceola, which is why those two counties are now deep blue, but they've also had to spread out because, they filled up the local area around Orlando and Kissimmee, and, now they're spreading, of course, for a long time into Seminole County, which for the first time turned blue in a presidential election in 2020, I believe. Lake County is, the other big target of migration from greater Disney World. And so from the perspective of anyone right of center, there is no more pernicious influence on Florida politics than the Walt Disney Corporation and everything that they've built. In parts of the rest of the state, growth does not necessarily mean you're turning deep red rural areas into deep blue cities. Quite often, when you look in other parts of the state, the new arrivals coming to Florida are coming here, because they are trying to move somewhere freer, because they like our lifestyle here and they like our politics. When people move to work in Disney World, it's because they want to work in entertainment. It's because they are Hollywood-minded. It's a left-wing culture. If you've ever known people who work at Disney World, I certainly have. I've had relatives who work there. The people who get attracted to work at Disney World and these kinds of places are culturally left-wing. And I don't mean just like, they're all about, tranny restrooms and underage, gender transition stuff. I don't mean that kind of culturally left, although there's that too. I mean that in terms of their personality, the way that they want to live, they enjoy living in apartments, that sort of thing. And they, of course, staunchly vote blue no matter who in every single election. Yes, as recently as 2004, Orange County did vote for the Republican in the presidential election. That, of course, was George W. Bush. But our politics have become much more polarized in the meantime. And as far as I'm concerned, voting for George W. Bush is by no means a virtue. So if you look at the legacy of Walt Disney in Central Florida, not only have did they kick off the destruction of the Central Florida natural environment, of traditional agriculture, of the rural culture. Not only do they create this, glistening monoculture, which, just extends further and further every year in every direction, because remember, this is not on the coast. There's no ocean that they're beating up against, which is stopping their growth. Disney World has expanded in all directions, north, south, east, and west, every year since it opened. And so beyond being an aesthetic travesty, a giant eyesore, displacing natural beauty, the main problem is the importation of their left-wing culture. Going to, Greater Orlando, it's not just physically ugly, which, to be honest, much of Florida is very, very ugly. The man-made parts. We do not have any sort of fine architecture here at all. Our architecture ranges from being subversive to caricature-ish. In Florida, housing developers are quite keen on building a concrete block box, a square, covering the outside in stucco, painting it tan, and calling it Mediterranean. Calling it a cheap knockoff is an insult to 1920s Spanish colonial revival architecture that was prominent in Florida and California at the times. That was a cheap knockoff of Mediterranean architecture. What we have today is it's unspeakably bad. And then if you don't have that, the other kind of architecture we have is cursed modernism, which is explicitly anti-architectural. It is explicitly ugly. That's what it means to challenge, established standards of beauty. And so we have all these very, very ugly buildings, which, replaced trees, rolling hills, fields, orange groves. And these buildings are filled with people who hate our culture and who want to destroy us and our families. Remember, when Disney initially did not address the so-called "Don't Say Gay" bill, the "Hey, don't groom my child at school" bill, it was the workers of Disney who revolted. Now, obviously, if you ever talk to the average worker really anywhere in America, but certainly within Florida, passing a law which states that public school teachers, government employees, cannot secretly groom young children sexually, that wouldn't be a controversial law. The fact that it's controversial, so controversial that it's universally opposed by Disney's workers, shows what a cancer Disney and its workforce are on this state. This is just one example. And it's not surprising to anyone who is familiar with Walt Disney and their staff here. And because, Disney itself is so big, there is there's this whole, there's the whole industry in that part of the state where you have all these, copycat things prop up, which employs much the same people. So I know this has been a long and drawn-out explanation, but when DeSantis takes on Walt Disney, this is what he's taking on. This is why it's so significant. And I haven't even talked about Disney's influence in Tallahassee. But because they control, because Central Florida is really their fiefdom, even beyond the borders of the Reedy Creek Improvement Zone, which I don't even have time to get into that, but that's really what DeSantis is threatening. DeSantis is threatening Disney's sovereignty over Disney World itself. There is an area which since I believe it was 1967 has been directly administered by the Walt Disney Corporation. They are the government there. And honestly, I'm not somebody who would find this all that shocking or appalling. I don't have a problem in principle, with private cities, because obviously most public cities in America, publicly run cities in America, leave a lot to be desired. But because Disney, for so long, has threatened the rest of the state outside of Disney World itself, outside of the Reedy Creek Improvement Zone, I think that it's perfectly appropriate to take away their privileges, their governing privileges, and to try to rein them in. And this is something that no Florida governor has ever been willing to do, has ever, would ever even consider doing. Walt Disney is a sacred cow of Florida politics. And we on the right have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain by trying to take them down a notch. Disney hates us. The people who have moved here to work for Disney hate us. And, even people, from Florida who choose to go and work at Disney tend to be people who hate us. It's a locus of subversion to everything that is good and just in this world. And I don't mean to say that everything that Disney's ever produced, is terrible and bad. No, I mean, I think that this is a more recent problem, because Disney is a part of the greater American corporate establishment and, of course, the American media. I don't mean to say that, Snow White and Pinocchio and Aladdin were all plots to destroy, a part of the plot to rot and destroy American culture, far from it. But it is a fact that today, in the year 2022, the American entertainment industry is hell-bent on destroying what most ordinary Americans like about this country. They hate the concept of men and women being a scientific reality. They hate the concept of a well-functioning and structured family. They hate the concept of white people existing in peace. And what they seek to supplant in place of all those things is rampant social discord. I don't know how to characterize such a force other than an enemy of the people. And the bare minimum which must be done is people like that must be stripped of all their special privileges. They can no longer be treated as superhumans. It makes no sense to give special privileges to the worst people in our midst. In fact, I would go so far as to say that granting someone special privileges encourages them to, if they were not already to begin with, to become the worst people in their midst, because they are going to be held to a lower standard. That's what it means to be privileged. I have absolutely no hesitation in saying that Florida as a whole would be much better off had Disney World never existed. And, if Central Florida could go back to being the quiet, beautiful, citrus-producing region that it once was. Remember, Orlando is in Orange County. It's called that for a reason, because the land in that area is specifically suited well to growing citrus trees. It's very sandy, it's high, it's dry, that's what you want. It has hills for where you can plant citrus trees. And I don't want to talk like I'm some kind of, orange nationalist. All I mean to say is that oranges and limes and lemons and grapefruit contribute much more to our society than Drag Queen Story Hour, which in fact is a distinct negative for society. It is not a positive. And so, as far as I'm concerned, if I can look at Disney and everything that is Disney adjacent, that entire region, and say we'd be better off without them, well, then it's a no-brainer that if they have any special privileges, which encourages them to continue what they're doing, that they should be stripped of those privileges immediately. And so what DeSantis is doing here is showing real leadership. He is doing something that has not been done before. As I already said, this is a sacred cow. And by slaughtering it, DeSantis is clearing the way for others too as well. Because he's going to show that this is a popular move. He's going to show that this is politically smart, which of course it is, because, as I said, Disney is certainly a political enemy. And so what could be the net effects of this if Disney doesn't feel like, their fiefdom in Central Florida is secure, if they feel like they are no longer in charge? Well, maybe they won't invest as much in here. Maybe other entertainers, maybe other woke companies won't want to come to Orlando. If that's, the so-called worst thing that could happen, then I would be very comfortable taking on Disney. Because I don't think we need more investment in woke industries. We don't need big tech. We have plenty of people here. What is it when all these companies move to different states? They bring people with them. It's not like there's a dearth of jobs in an area, and then this company decides to come in and say, hey, you know what, we're gonna build a drag queen story library, and we're gonna hire all these local people. No, they bring in a bunch of drag queens from San Francisco. So we have plenty of people flooding here to begin with. We don't need new jobs here. And maybe that'll be an unpopular thing. Maybe that's why I'm not a politician. But that's the truth. In this state, there's a great surplus of people. We have plenty of people, and in fact, we have even more jobs because there's a lot of people who don't want to work. There's a lot of people who don't have to work because they're retired or because they made so much more money living up north. That when they came down here and outbid local people here to buy a house, they're able to live so much cheaper. Let's say they sold their house in Boston for $800,000, and they come down here and they buy can't buy a house for $250,000 anymore, but at least not where I am. But in some places maybe you still can buy one for $250,000. Then they got all this extra money in the bank that they can live off of, and they don't have to work very hard. There's so much hot money flooding into this state. We don't need the theme parks. I'd be very happy to see them go. I don't think they'll leave, because there's so much investment, that is sunk in to building a theme park and maintaining it and all that. It will never, you're not going to move Disney World to, Atlanta, Georgia or something like that, which I'm sure is going to be the, next great woke metropolis. But who knows? Maybe one day it will come to that, and Central Florida will be hollowed out, and maybe they'll start bulldozing those cookie-cutter neighborhoods and returning them to the soil. And if that did happen, we'd be better off for it. But as long as it is happening, as long as all that continues to grow, we certainly don't need to encourage it. So, with that said, if you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and subscribing. I will be talking about the Hungarian election tomorrow, assuming that I'm able to get results. I don't know how fast they record and report results in Hungary. Hopefully it's fast. Hopefully it's something that they do quickly. But with that said, I'll leave it off there.